Anthony. So everyone, welcome to the Tuesday, August 18th, 2020 Town of Monroe Planning Board regular meeting. Noreen, if you would please do the roll call attendance.
John Allegro.
Here.
Pat Shea.
Here.
Jason Sorinsky.
Here.
Bonnie Franson.
Here.
Lisa McQuaid.
Here.
Jeff Manson.
Here.
And Anthony Vaccaro.
Here.
We have
All right.
a full group.
Yes, we do. With that, we can we have a quorum and we can conduct business. So next on our agenda is the Pledge of Allegiance. Thank you, Jeff. I pledge of allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands,
One
nation, under God,
indivisible.
with liberty and justice
For all.
With liberty
Thank you.
and justice for all.
It's interesting because there's varying degrees of delay. So we do our best to do the pledge here.
Then I'll say it again. For all.
Thank you. Thank you, John. Ward thanks you as well. He is an attendee, I believe.
There you go,
I
Ward.
was going to say, he called earlier today, so I'm pretty sure he's going to be here.
Yes. All right. So with that, we have a continuation of a public hearing, Raywood Drive. Let's bring everybody in who should be on this agenda item. I see Joel, I see Larry. Joel, can you hear us?
Yes. Hi. Hi, everyone. How are you?
Good evening.
Good evening.
Is there anyone besides Larry and yourself that need to participate?
I don't think so. I think it's just
Okay.
Letty.
Okay. So with that, this is a continuation of a public hearing. We're here to listen to public comment on the proposed application. So at some point, if you're interested in offering comments on this application and you are an attendee, I would ask that you raise your hand in order to be heard. You can also send us a chat. Oh, actually they can't chat, right? That's
Right, chat's turned off for attendees.
chat's turned off. So you need to raise your hand if you'd like to speak. So why don't we start, Joel, if you could please provide an overview of the application again for those that might be listening in, and Sean, perhaps you could bring up the site plan or the subdivision plan.
Sure. Okay, basically in short, some couple words. This is a proposed 3-lot subdivision at the end of the cul-de-sac on Raywood Drive. We went through a couple of meetings with addressed mostly of the comments of the planning board. It's 3 single-family homes proposed on this lot. All the lots are conforming with the zoning. All the lots are having a separate driveway, garbage enclosure, the utilities. Everything is proposed on the plans, including all the trees to be remained and all the proposed plantings. And there was about discussion about the extension of the cul-de-sac on Raywood Drive. Was discussed with the highway superintendent, and I think by now everyone is on the same page. And on the last meeting, we had a couple comments, and I will hand over to Larry if he wants to go through the comments, how it was addressed.
Sure.
And Larry.
All right, good evening.
Good evening, Larry. If you would just introduce yourself for the
Hello,
record.
Larry Toro, engineer, Civil Tech Engineering.
Thank you.
Well, there was some comments. I wasn't at the initial public hearing, but basically there was some comments raised, I believe, by the Conservation Commission as well as the board, which we tried to address on the plans and we had outlined in the cover letter, but briefly, you know, there were just some minor comments as far as the name of the project. We had changed that. There was some, with the type of trees, the the white pine and blue spruce, we changed to the green arborvitaes. Do some wording about not that that the tree shall be protected. They will be protected. There was an issue, not an issue, but a question regarding the significant rock on the site, and to make a note on the plan and show where that would be used in some planting areas, which we've done. I guess we had shown garbage disposal enclosure area on lot 3 twice, so we removed one of those. And there was some notes from the town of Monroe, standard notes for soil erosion sediment control. We've edited and fixed that, and provided copies of the SWIP ultimately for the project. So I mean, that's pretty much just trying to catch up on the comments that were raised. That hopefully we addressed them all.
Okay. So is there anyone from the audience that would like to offer comments on this application? You could raise your hand. I don't see anyone raising their hand. Why don't we at this point move to Sean? I believe you had some comments.
I do. Do we want to open it up and maybe just allow the person on the phone to talk, or see if they have comments?
That's Ward, I think.
That's Ward. So
Okay.
we do want his comments, but I think right now we're just trying to get public comments. And actually, I do want Ward on because I have some questions about the arborvitae. But let's go through your comments first, Sean.
Yep. Put the right names up. First comment was just, standard comment about what the application is proposing. The second comment was about the applicant did revise the plantings to be green arborvitae per the Monroe Conservation Commission, but there is a tree tabulation sheet on sheet 3 that just needs to be updated per that change. We had previously discussed with the highway superintendent, and he recommended that a note be added to the plans that the trees within the right-of-way be maintained by the property owners, and that I did not see that note added. We did also discuss adding that as a condition of the stormwater management agreement. Next was about the SWIP. Technically, the SWIP I do find in substantial completion, or substantial, complete. Can't think of the word. Technically sound, except there's just a couple missing items, specifically the NOT, SWIP repair certification, etc. And we could hold off on having the MS4 acceptance form be signed until those things are addressed, but this time no further technical concerns.
Okay.
But if I can I just jump in on one of the comments?
Yes.
It's Larry, sorry. I'm just not quite, I know the question was raised about the trees in the right-of-way being maintained by the homeowners. I'm not exactly sure how we make that work where it's within the town right-of-way at the end of the cul-de-sac with the 3 property owners.
I think last time we had discussed including that in the stormwater management agreement.
Okay, oh, I see, okay.
Ashley, do you have anything to add to that?
Yeah, I was going to say that it does require, I believe, a stormwater management easement agreement. And I had forgotten until Sean had just mentioned that he had suggested, I think, including that maintenance of the trees in that agreement. So it could be done, I think it could probably be done that way. And that would make sense if it's already going to be an agreement with the town.
I would just suggest that the note be added to the plan just to tie the agreement to the, to the subdivision plan.
I'm just wondering, this is Anthony, I'm wondering if that's impermissible or sound. I mean, if they're in the right of way, what if the town wants to remove them because they're a hazard to public hazard, or, who, does the town have the right to still maintain them if they want to? I mean, that's the whole purpose of having a right of way, so that the town can control trees and vegetation.
So I think it probably will make sense to discuss that with the town and see exactly what they want to do with respect to that. Because the trees, I believe, did that come from the highway superintendent, or?
I believe it did.
No, I think it was recommended here by.
It might have been because the town board had indicated that a condition would be of the extending the road would be so that it can't be connected with any other road. So perhaps we circulate back with the town board,
Okay.
that is, and the highway superintendent to see what, if any, issues this might pose.
I thought the highway superintendent had said it would be acceptable, so it would be good to circle back. He did, okay.
He did, yes.
Okay, and I think ultimately, if the town needs to make a change, they should obviously have the right to do so, but in the meantime, if they're going to be there, it's something that the homeowners maintain. So I'm sure we can craft something if the town board finds that acceptable.
I'm wondering if it's a better angle to make it a private section over by the homeowners and give the town an easement to do work on that, or storage, snow removal, and anything else the town wants to do.
I don't think I heard the first part of that, Anthony.
Wondering if it makes more sense to make that property private property and have the town have an easement for highway purposes, for storing snow or whatever they need to do.
So this is already in the existing right-of-way for Raywood Drive, I believe. Raywood Drive just wasn't fully improved to the outer bounds of the right-of-way, so it is already in the town right-of-way. So I don't think...
Yeah.
I think there'd be a question whether the town wants to give up the property and deed it over to a private entity.
Okay.
But again, we have to ask the town board and we have to circle back with the highway superintendent. So those are all questions we can ask them. So I don't believe we have any public at this point. Let's see.
I did have a few more comments as well, Bonnie.
Okay, yeah, I was gonna ask, I just want to check, keep an eye on the attendees.
Sure.
So Ashley, why don't you go through your comments and then I'll ask the board if they have any comments.
So I did have a question about the water agreement with Curistol. So there was one submitted earlier, I think a few months ago. I wanted to ask the applicant whether that was the form that was their agreement with Curistol. I think it was April.
I need to look it up. One second.
Sure. And there is one of the big issues I do have with that form agreement is that it talks about dedicating any existing wells or dedicating wells on the property to Curistol, and that should definitely not be in there because that's not something, that was ever addressed as far as seeker. And as we've been going through this process, it was always understood that the water would just come from the village. And I don't think this board was ever aware that there was any intent to have, I don't know whether that's just part of their form agreements or what, but that somehow have wells dedicated to the village. So that's definitely an issue.
That's basically a standard agreement. There was when the village made agreements with other property owners when they had existing wells on the property, but I don't think it's valid here at all because there was no.
There are no existing wells.
So the way in contracts and in contract law, whenever there's a provision in an agreement, you always have to read the agreement as if there's a reason why that's in there. So it really, if it's irrelevant because it doesn't apply to the circumstances, it can't be in the agreement.
Okay, let me check on that and we'll see if we can have it revised.
I think
There was also,
ultimately,
related
I think-
to that, so I came across, it looks like an agreement was actually already filed, so that's why I was confused as to what your agreement with the village was, whether it was the one you gave to this board, or if you reached a different agreement that was then filed. Are
I
you,
remember a discussion about it. It's a couple months ago, and I had some people taking care of that. So, do you have the filed agreement?
so I found it on the county clerk's website, and it's not consistent with what was given to this board, so as you know, the agreement was always going to be subject to my review as the planning board's attorney, but this version that's been now filed with the county is different from the version that was provided to this board and different in significant respects. So it really now has just become a tenuous agreement where it's going to require the town board to create a water district for these properties, which that's not something that was ever discussed. So that's not something that the village and this property owner have the ability to agree to because it's beyond their control. I believe it was worded as if either it's going to be annexed into the village land or it has to be, the town board has to create a water district. So that just hasn't been contemplated by purpose of this approval. So these are some big significant issues that we need to resolve at this level. And I would advise the board to keep the public hearing open as we figure out where, where water is coming from, how it's coming. I could say I was rather offended that we were not told that this was filed and that this big change had occurred from the agreement that was presented to the town.
Ashley, what's the date of that agreement?
The date when it was filed,
Yes.
it was,
I'm a little bit wondering what's going on over here.
My recollection is during the whole annexation review process, there were certain documents that were circulating around, including requirements for paying for water or to be connected to water. So I'm just curious. So Ashley, if you could send that around to everybody
sure, it was June 18th of this year.
of this year. Yeah, I'm curious to see if it's some version of what had circulated a while back. So if you could send that, I'd appreciate it.
Sure.
But ultimately, I concur with what Ashley's saying. This is something legal. It's something, this is a property in the town of Monroe. And any and all agreements regarding, servicing with utilities need to be approved by the town board, need to be reviewed by our attorneys. Somehow we have to address this and we need to leave this public hearing open until it is.
It's very interesting because nothing is supposed to be filed before the approval of the town. I need to check on what's going on with this, what happened here in between. So I wasn't aware that this was filed. No, I will really investigate that. So
Yeah, and then to that end, and Ashley can continue, but I would be concerned about any other agreements that may have been filed. So there should be no filing of agreements until such time that this process is completed. Or until such time that our attorney advises that it needs to be.
There needs to be, water to the property. It's a seeker issue as well to make sure that there's water and to make sure that there's not, wells that are going to be then given elsewhere and could potentially deplete the water supply. So this is, it's definitely something that needs to be addressed and resolved. And, we need to know what exactly is going on with the water and how the property is going to get the water before moving forward.
Thank you, Ashley.
So the issues with the agreement, there are two issues with the agreement. No, I'm not talking about the process, what was filed, but it's the issues that the wells that is being dedicated to the village. The second issue is that the requirement to create a water district.
So these are the two, I would call the two fundamental issues, and that's just because these are main, issues with the agreement. So really what it should be and what's typically done would be some kind of unconditional, will serve letter from the village where it's not conditioned on these other circumstances, such as the dedication of the wells and the creation of a town water district. Those are just conditions that make it's really not an agreement. It's pretty much worthless at this point, just because there's no control. This planning board can't require any of those things to happen. And again, the village and the property owner can't agree to that. So it's really, there's just too much in there. Those are the two big things, though, the two primary issues that I think need to be.
Yeah, so
addressed.
ultimately, the agreement has to be tailored between the town and this particular property and specific to it.
So it really depends on how, because I was under the impression that it was just going to be a user agreement, outside user agreement with the village and the property owner, and that's just not how it was phrased and how it
Right.
was ultimately, agreed to. So I think it's going to need to be, redone, and however it's going to be resolved, I can't, say at this point because I just don't know. But we'll have to definitely resolve that and get to an agreement where everyone's on board, including, of course, the town. And if there's anything, I don't believe that the town board was asked to consider this extension. I'm not sure because it was news to me. So that's another issue.
So Ashley, again, you'll send that around to all of us, and we should probably forward one to the town, the town board attorney. As a heads up, as just an FYI, because ultimately this has to get to the town board anyway. Ashley, did you have any additional comments?
Sure, just a few. So the tree plan, I think Sean had mentioned the one comment. Another one on that tree plan is you need to add a note about the penalties that are going to, penalties for not complying with the tree law. It's in the town code. That has to be a note on the plan. Some of the 7 arborvitae trees that are in the rear of lot 2, they're right on the property lines, and I was wondering if they could be moved so that they could, either be on lot 2 or on one of the back lots there.
While we're on that subject, Sean, what's the size, or if Larry or Joel could answer the question, what's the planting size of the arborvitae?
I'd be honest with you, I have to check with the landscape architect what's standard for something like that. But we will reference it on the plan.
Yeah, it's actually not called out on the detail or on the plans. It's a good point.
Yeah, so why don't you continue, Ashley, and we can hit that point again.
Sure. So I was saying the 7 new trees that are it's behind lot 2 for screening purposes. Those are kind of right on the property line. I don't know if, Sean, do you still have the plan up or?
Yes, I do. What specifically? Sorry.
I think it's sheet 3.
We can move them on to one lot or the other. I know.
Yeah, just to take them off the property line. I didn't know if there was a reason, if it was maybe too close to the,
These few here.
We'll move them around.
and then I think we touched briefly on that the town code requires the stormwater maintenance easement agreement. And the last time, I believe I had brought up that the planning board will need to discuss the mandatory and discretionary public improvements in the subdivision regs. And also, ultimately, you'll have to make the findings regarding recreation fees as well.
Okay, thank you. Board members, do you have any comments?
Have the dry wells been reviewed, and are there storage capacities above their groundwater table?
Yeah, so that they were reviewed as part of the SWIP submission. They are sized, per the recommendations of the stormwater management design manual.
And is there a performance guarantee on the trees for a year? Is that required to make sure they survive the new plantings?
So there's nothing specific spelled out, but there will be performance or maintenance bonding. So those types of things, I think that was raised last time. The year.
Yeah, it'd be good to, Sean, and maybe, Karen Art may have some standards that I've seen come across various landscape plans, but I would love to get a set of standard notes together for any of our applications that involve landscaping, because in general, we want to make sure that, you know, any substitutions of any plantings have to come back to the planning board, that they are to be, you know, maintained for the life of the project. Because oftentimes it talks about 2, you know, planting seasons, but I don't want to see something die after 2 years. So, you know, there's, I think, a set of standards that we should just probably develop for our subdivisions and our site plans that are just good practices. And there are examples out there. I'll try to find some too, but let's see what we can find.
Yeah.
And I also see that the size or the diameter of the proposed trees have been increased so that they're more realistic as avoidance, but I'm just wondering, are there construction notes to make sure that if there's any trenching, they don't undermine the tree? Maybe that's something that Ward would want to speak to.
Actually, there's a, I can bring it up, tree protection detail on sheet 4. Right here, that they've got to be protected during construction at, you know, which is generally the, you know, generally the good practice of protecting the trees where the, you know, where excavation under the drip line could potentially, you know, imminently damage the tree. Bonnie, back to your question about the size of the trees, the red maple actually does call it a 2.5 caliber tree here.
Okay.
Except I don't see anything on the arborvitae for size. So.
Right. So it says trees, there's a tree tabulation, new plantings, white pine, spruce. But I think that was changing, right, to arborvitae?
Right, we need to update that, and at the same time, we'll put the size in that table.
Yeah, and actually, can we, since we're talking about the trees, can we bring Ward in as a participant? He's the 845-783-9031 number.
Yep.
Yeah, I see him.
Ward, are you able to talk?
Ward Brower here.
Hi, Ward.
How you doing?
Good. So we're talking about the trees that are shown on the what was known as the 81 Raywood Drive subdivision.
Right.
Have you had a chance to look at the revisions to that landscape plan and the landscaping?
Our comments when we walked on it, we saw the notes about the red maple, and the commission came to the conclusion that this is one of more of the unique sections of Monroe, in that these trees are allowed to grow to their mature succession rate. Most of this area has been farmed for the last 300 years. Only you get to areas like this where the topo is extremely steep or whatever, that you didn't get farming practices which remove the natural vegetation. And in this hardwood section of the Northeast, in this particular area, oaks and hickories are the last stage. And this section shows that, red maple being the dominant, red oak being the dominant species on that property. So when I see red maple, that should not be in there. You should be putting in red oaks as replacements, not red maples. That's not the natural. If you took man out of the picture, red maples would not be in there in 50, 75 years from now. Red oaks would be in there like they are now. That's a dominant feature on the tree plant. Also, last time I commented on the tree protection plan is well written, so hopefully it will be followed. The only revision we had was not to use the galvanized wire as a stabilizer, use a biodegradable rope or something like that.
Right.
That
And
was,
again, I think there's there needs to be a note if it's not already there, Sean, that, you know, the intent is to keep those trees. That it's not a matter of once they build the house, they cut the tree. So I think there needs to be some note to that effect. Obviously, if they come down because of a storm, that's one thing, but you know, we don't want them cut. That's the whole intent of keeping them.
And as I may, Bonnie, one other, I've seen this happen like 30 years ago when I first got on the Conservation Commission. Developer thought he was doing the right thing, went in and saved all the largest trees and removed all the smaller, what he calls shrubs. Mm-hmm. Unfortunately, the trees that he left there were native red maples, which were like their geriatric stage of development. You know, they maybe had another 10 years before they succumbed to natural causes. And he eliminated all the 40-year-old oaks, which would be around for another 250 years. So we've learned through the eons of being on these meetings that when you have to have some kind of little bit of knowledge and history of what's nature tends the final picture or this conclusion to look like. So when you're selecting your trees to stay, I think we put this in the report. I'd recommend saving a smaller red oak over a larger red maple. Because that tree there, the red oak will have everything being equal, will have the greatest chance of contributing to the environment for a long, long time, where the red maple will not.
You know, it'd be useful if you or the Conservation Commission can go out with Larry or with someone
That would be
to review what plants can be preserved,
okay.
and to actually flag them, you know, to take them or to do something.
I think that would be prudent. I've seen mistakes in the past, and I don't like to repeat them.
Yeah. The question I had, Ward, for you is that, so, you know, arborvitae can be very narrow, slim, right? Columnar.
Yes.
And, you know, in the back of this yard, they're showing 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 arborvitae. Mm-hmm. And I just don't know from a planting perspective how long it's going to take to have these arborvitae provide any kind of screening. And
you want to put those closer together. Arborvitae is probably a spacing of not more than 8 feet would probably do it. 10 at the most.
Okay, so they should be spaced closer together. So it may require additional plantings.
That's correct. And someone, Leslie, comment was made by, I guess, Ashley, about planting on the line. Probably the best, most prudent way is to plant like an offset about 5 feet from the line. Those trees, they're fairly compact roots. They'll do well. You can't do, at the 5 feet, you're not going to hurt them if they're on the line.
Yeah, I have a question for Joel and for Larry. And again, we don't know necessarily who the future homeowners are, but is there an expectation that those homeowners will want to put fencing along the property line? Because if they do, A, I think we should have a detail for it. And B, I think that we have to anticipate it related to where these plantings end up. You know, to Ash's part, or to her point.
There is a possibility that they want to put fencing, but it's hard to predict that. So
yeah,
one better show the fencing on the plan. And
I think in the end, I mean, in the best of all worlds, we would have decorative, but you know, if it's going to be something that's chain link, you know, I always like to see black vinyl coated, you know, which is far better than just plain old chain link. If it's possible, you know, maybe to have some options as to what they can install if they decide that they are going to have fencing around their place. Because especially if they have lots of small children, you know, and they have playground equipment, etc., they may want to fence their yard. It wouldn't be surprising. And the way that these houses are set up with the one kind of in front of the others, we should kind of anticipate that.
So what is that, black?
If they're going to do, I mean, I prefer decorative, but if they're going to do black vinyl, if they're gonna do chain link, black vinyl, I think is a good option. Okay.
Okay.
Bonnie, I'm curious, the proposed locations, because there was discussion about rock. What if those locations for the proposed trees don't work because of high rock table? I mean, how would that be addressed?
I think that, again, it would be useful for the Conservation Commission to go out with Joel and with Larry, because when I was out there, certainly there was a lot of rock right along the frontage of the property where the trees are proposed to be planted. And ultimately, you have to have enough soil and enough area, to be able to establish a tree. And in this instance, I think there should be a little bit more interaction to have a viable landscaping plan that's going to work.
Oh, may I comment, Bonnie?
Yes.
As far as the rocks, unless it's ledge rock, solid ledge rock, you can get those arborvitaes in there. Those roots will go around those boulders and hook in, and they'll take nutrients up, and then also is a good source of water. They'll work in there as long as you can get the plant established with a fairly decent root ball, 2-3 feet in diameter. The roots will grow around the rocks. I guarantee you that.
Yeah, I'm concerned more about the plantings that are along Raywood Drive, the hardwoods, the deciduous, because there was a lot of rock there.
I know, but the oaks proved that they survived. It's this property and the one we reviewed at the workshop, they were all dominant red oak, and it's all rock up in there, and those roots get in there. Yeah.
Okay. So I think we should just, what'd you say, Ward?
I said they're very efficient at finding crevices and opening up crevices and anchoring down. They work.
Okay.
There are others, correct, and some species will not do as well on that, and these will do. Tenacious.
Okay. So again, but you'll be fine with going out there kind of one more time to look at the planting plan and adjust as necessary?
Sure, give us a date and we'll be there.
Okay. So, I'll ask Joel and Larry, you coordinate with Ward.
Okay.
I'm sorry, who should we coordinate with?
With Ward Brower.
Let me just ask then also, prior to this site meeting, is there anything specifically the commission wants flagged, located, anything while we're out there?
Probably Larry.
Prior to the meeting?
And Larry, hear me?
Yep.
Okay, Larry, if we could just see the footprint of the house and the driveways and all that, then we can get an idea of what's possible.
All right, so
Yeah,
Mark,
yeah, I think
flag
if
that
in
out.
general, where the disturbances are, and again, what can be
Exactly.
preserved.
so basically the four corners of the buildings and the parking areas.
Correct.
Okay. While Ward's here, does anybody have additional questions for Ward on the plantings and landscaping?
Bonnie?
No? Yes, Jeff.
I'm just thinking back to when I went and visited the site myself, and I'm looking at the row of arborvitae at the end of the extension of Raywood Drive past the bulb. And I'm thinking about, so when I was there that day, there's a little footpath from where the bulb is that extends past where the chain link fence is, where the arborvitae would go. And
Right.
I don't know whether, whether that's used to pass through to the school. But the day that I was there, a young man was walking along that footpath. I don't know if he was going to the school. I don't know if he was going to visit a friend. My concern is with a tight row of arborvitae there, where there is a path, where people have created a path, they will continue to use a path. And I'm wondering if we should account for that. I mean, obviously, residents on Raywood Drive have been, or people have been passing to Raywood Drive or from Raywood Drive at the end there. And I'm a little concerned. I know there was an opening in the fence. Not a gate, it was an opening, and a 1 foot path. So I'm thinking that whoever was using that is going to want to continue to use that. And I'm a little concerned that if we have a tight row of arborvitae there, that they'll continue to do it. I just know if I was a young teen and you put up trees where I always walked, I'd continue to walk there.
Yeah, my comment with regard to the tight arborvitaes is for the screening of the house. Having said that, I hear what you're saying. I actually brought that up earlier to take a look at. And my question would be with regard to that planting plan, that little trail is to the right of some kind of utility box. So where is that utility box? Do we know? Actually, can I share my screen for a moment? Let me just share something here real quick. Can everybody see that? Are you able to see that? Okay. So, here's the property here at the end of Raywood. And this is the path I think you're talking about.
Exactly.
Jeff. And then, so there's this box right here. And then a lot of this is the rock that I'm talking about that's all kind of been, some of it looks, like it was dumped there. Others of it, if you walk there, is actually natural. But so my question would be on the plans, where is this? It would appear to be, I don't know if it's in the village or if it's in the town's right of way, but relative to this and the walking path, where would that be on the plan? I'll stop sharing.
Larry, what I'll do is when they're out there flagging the house locations and driveways, I'll make sure that they locate that utility box as well as where that trail is, and then we can work around it with the plantings.
Okay.
Well, I'm wondering if the sidewalk could just be extended all the way out to the property line, well, the end of the right of way.
Behind the trees?
Well, it would just, then that would, yeah, I guess so. And if you had to eliminate one of the screen trees, that'd be the way I prefer that. I mean, you're proposing a sidewalk in front of the 3 properties. Why not just have it continue to extend and then end there? And then people can continue on to wherever they're coming or going to. I just don't want to cut off the existing residents from access that they've had. I live on a cul-de-sac. I know what it's like to be on the dead end, and sometimes you need alternate access, so to speak.
Yeah, well, obviously it's a well-worn path because people are already traveling there. So
My only concern with having the sidewalk go all the way to the edge of the right of way is being able to have ADA access at the end of that sidewalk. And I'm not sure if that brings up a concern for the town not having a ADA curb cut, so to speak, at the end of that sidewalk. And maybe that's a legal question.
yeah, I think that, and of course, we'd have to bring this to the attention of the highway superintendent anyway. Because if it's in the right of way and the town has to maintain it, how far do they want to carry the sidewalk?
Right.
So that's a highway superintendent question too. Anybody else? Questions, comments? All right, so with that then, I think there's more work to do. Clearly, we have to research and determine what the status is of these agreements, especially, again, Larry's going to work with the Conservation Commission, really kind of focus in on how we can preserve trees and show that box relative to where the arborvitae are. And there'll be a detail provided if homeowners do want to install fencing so that it's consistent. And so my recommendation, and as per Ashley's comments, we need to continue the public hearing. Ashley, do we have to make a motion to continue the public hearing to a date certain?
Yes, if you could, that way it'll be noticed right now, so then you won't have to then renotice it. So if you did a motion to continue it, I guess to your next.
To our September, what date would that be, Noreen?
The regular meeting is September 15th.
Okay, so I would like to make a motion that we continue the public hearing for the, hold on, I'll just get my agenda up again. For the Raywood Drive application to our September, did you say 15th?
Yes.
To our September 15th regular meeting. May I have a second?
I'll second that.
Noreen, could you take a poll?
Yes, excuse me. Bonnie Franson,
Aye.
Jeff Manson,
Aye.
Anthony Vaccaro. Anthony Vaccaro,
He's muted.
I'm sorry, aye.
Pat Shea,
Aye.
Lisa McQuaid,
Aye.
Jason Swirinski,
Aye.
John Allegro.
Aye.
Thank you.
All right, thank you, folks, and we'll see you in September.
Thank you very much.
And then Joel, I would just, offer that you work with Ashley to resolve these issues.
I will. I will be in contact with her. I need to find out who filed that agreement and what I have to do with me. So this is something I need to clarify.
Okay, thank you. All right. So let's do your thing, Sean, and change our attendees and our panelists.
I'm staying here for the next.
Okay. So our next item is Joel Stossel. I think we can have Ward back in the attendees.
Yes, he's muted.
Great. And so for this application, besides you, Joel, is there anybody else?
We have Ricky Brohl,
Okay. She was our architect or designer.
designer from C. Stern.
Okay.
Okay. So basically, this matter, based on the comments on last week's comments, we have submitted a revised rendering set, basically removing any reference to any parking lights. That's not going to be changed as part of this approval, and also detailed illumination under the lightings, under all the signs and wording lightings as requested by the planning board. So I think by now we should be good and addressed all the comments.
Okay. Any board members, do you have any comments on what has been submitted? We do have a draft resolution to consider for this evening. No? All right, so I'm going to share my screen so we can bring up the resolution. Can everyone see that? All right, so let's start to go through this. So this is a resolution of approval for architectural review and site plan amendment for 17M Gold Star LLC, also known as Joel Stossel. And the project number, nature of application, 17M Gold Star LLC seeks architectural review approval of modifications to the facade of an existing medical office building and a site plan amendment to add a ramp to the second floor entrance together with new signage and exterior lighting. The property is shown on the town of Monroe tax maps as tax parcel 1187. The zoning district is the HI zoning district of the town of Monroe. Following are the plans and other submittals which form the basis of the planning board's action. It's a completed application form, amended site plan, a design book for Care Steer Medical Center, prepared by C. Stern. Is it Cistern or C. Stern? Is that spelled correctly? Or is there an I there?
I think it's Eastern.
It is C. Stern, okay.
Yeah.
Drawings for some reason I thought it was CI. Drawings for 501 Route 208, prepared by Brackenman Associates, identified as follows. So we have the front elevation, left side elevation, and right side elevation. History, application filed with the planning board on December 27, 2019. There's no requirement for a public hearing on this application. This matter constitutes a type 2 action under the seeker. Act in as much as the project involves construction or expansion of a non-residential structure or facility involving less than 4,000 square feet of gross floor area. So it's not subject to seeker. 239M, application has been referred to the Orange County Planning Department for review and report. The Planning Department has reported that this matter is one for local determination, there being no significant intermunicipal or countywide consideration found to exist. Should we add the date, Ashley? Just the date of the actual referral?
Sure, if you want the referral date or the date of their report, maybe.
The date of the report.
Yeah, I'm just trying to find that. March 13th.
Okay, great. Findings. Planning board has determined in exercising its powers for architectural review. I'll let you read through this, folks. So the first finding has to do with the architectural review. And then the second finding has to do with the amended site plan. So unless I hear otherwise, I'll continue to move on. Public improvements, plans do not identify any necessary public improvements. Therefore, the planning board has determined that that entry into a public improvement security agreement will not be required. And so our resolution, now therefore, the planning board resolves to grant architectural review approval and to approve this amended site plan as said proposal is depicted on the plans identified above and upon the conditions outlined below, and that the chairwoman or designee is authorized to sign the plans. So the specific conditions, approval is subject to final engineering review of the plan set, shall not be signed until receive a letter from the planning board engineer certifying that he's found the plan submitted for signature to be in proper order. Prior to signing the resolution, design book shall be revised to add a revision date to the cover page. Planning board's acceptance of the lighting design is premised on the representation of the applicant that the lighting will not cause a glare or other deleterious effect on adjoining properties and or roadway traffic. Should any such conditions result from the installation, in the sole opinion of the building inspector, applicant agrees to modify and or replace fixtures, the cost correction of the condition. I'd like something. Let's continue. All outdoor lighting shall provide a minimum illumination of 1 foot candle in publicly accessible areas and shall be shielded so as to prevent the source of light from being a visual nuisance to the adjoining property. The source of the light shall be fully shielded with full 90-degree cutoff luminaires and so located such that it shall not be visible beyond the property boundary on which it's situated. I'd like something added that, no lights shall be added without the planning board reviewing it, because there's this trend, which I always talk about, of people adding security lights that are shine outward instead of downward. And I think if there's lights that are going to be added to the building other than those shown on the plans, that we have an opportunity, or that the building inspector has an opportunity to say it's not consistent with the site plan.
Bonnie, this is Anthony. I'm glad you brought that up because very often I see sometimes that the lighting doesn't match what we had in mind, and maybe the installer didn't know specifically, what we had in mind. Is that kind of thing included on the as-built and is checked to confirm that it matches the design?
So I think what's shown is on the C-stern. So why don't we go through that quickly? Let me stop sharing.
I've got it up if you want me to share.
Yeah, why don't you do that? Because I also want to make sure we all agree that the lights that were going to face out to 208, you were going to have basically the red would be opaque and that you would see the lighting, you know, that shines through otherwise an opaque surface. Could you blow that up a little bit, Sean? Because I can't read that. Thank you. Downlights to be placed beneath the signage. Down there, okay. Does it say that the red is to be opaque, or can we just say as an additional condition, red acrylic to be opaque? So I think that addresses the one lighting in that particular sign. And then as I'm viewing, I'm not sure what I'm viewing. I'm looking at, there we go. Thanks, Sean. All right, so can we continue to scroll down? Okay, so this was the next set of lighting. You would ask the question, Anthony. We have up-down wall sconces. So my only question there is I think we had wanted to stay under 3000 Kelvin so that it's not super white. That's 3500. Is it possible to get to 3000? Yes, Ricky? You're muted. We didn't hear you. Is it me or I can't hear Ricky even though she's not muted?
Can't hear her too.
I'm not hearing her as well.
I can't hear her.
So Ricky, we can't hear you, we're not sure. So actually nod your head if it's okay to go to 3000 Kelvin. Yes, okay. Thank you. Okay, and then the other lighting was associated, so with the sign, door bump out to be tiled with natural wood lock. Okay, 501 address signage to be 12-inch in height and backlit. So we already talked about that. And then the Williamsburg pediatric sign to be backlit or downlit below roof overhang. So again, we were ensuring that, you know, you wouldn't have any light visible. Okay, and here are the, okay. So actually it's interesting, that says that the color temp is 3000. So that other reference to that particular lighting just may not be accurate because I think it's at 3500 Kelvin.
Yeah, I think this was one of the comments we changed already to 3000. Probably just.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think it was, it just wasn't that note on page 7, so I'll add a condition to require just that note to be modified.
Right.
Great, okay.
Bonnie,
Yes.
My question was more, how do we know that after this is built, that it was built the way that is specified here?
I think that's something that I don't know if it's Ben or if Ben in conjunction with Sean do a review during construction to ensure that the conditions of the approval and the site plan and architectural review are met. Because I think typically Ben works with Sean, right?
Right, yeah, so typically, the building elements are handled by Ben, and then when there's site elements that need to be reviewed, we do, perform a review at the end of the project to make sure that everything is installed for the site plan.
Does that answer your question, Anthony?
Yeah, I mean, somebody's reviewing cut sheets on all the lighting, or I mean, to what detail are we talking about? I mean, somebody could easily ship a light with 3,500.
Yeah, I think
we don't typically get involved in reviewing the cut sheets, but
it's something that Ben should be, reviewing, especially when we have specific as far as, again, lighting levels, etc.
Just from my experience, buildings I was involved from the beginning till the end by COs. Ben is basically going through the full set of plans, looking all the landscaping and the lighting, and he's making sure that everything is compliant with approval. Otherwise, he must send it back. He's asking Sean or other or whatever they need to comply. So it's basically being enforced.
And the cut sheet is part of the approval, in the reference in the approval. So
Yes.
if it's not this, any other lighting has to come back to us. Okay, so why don't we just continue scrolling through this? I think that's most of the lighting. We did take off any references, right, to pole lighting because the pole lighting isn't being changed.
Yes.
And so it'll just continue to be whatever the luminaires are for them. Up, what is, okay, so where is that being used? Those are the downlight?
on the front.
Okay,
These lights here.
okay. Okay. So I think that's it.
Yeah.
See Stern. All right. So Anthony, are you good?
I'm good, thank you.
Okay. So I am going to now take over again if I can.
Sure.
So I can get back to the resolution. Share screen. Okay. Can you all see that?
Yep.
Okay. So site plan allows construction only that which is shown on the plans identified. No outdoor amenities, accessory structures, or outdoor fixtures, including but not limited to exterior wall, mechanicals, dumpsters, etc., may be constructed, placed, or erected except as shown on the approved site plan. So that's addressed. Architectural drawings shall carry certification that what is shown thereon conforms to the approved site plan. Except as hereby modified, all conditions attached to earlier grants of site plan approval are to remain in effect, and this approval is subject to and conditioned upon satisfaction of same as if those conditions were set forth herein at length. Approval, these are just general conditions about timeframes within which plans need to be signed and provided to the building department. We do have the ability to extend the time frame for the approval by up to 180 days. And our other general standard is this approval is further conditioned upon other applicable local laws and regulations. And a variety of departments are referenced. Fees have to be paid. Completed entity disclosure statement signed and sworn. Site plan is binding upon the applicant and any subsequent owners. And again, no changes, erasures, modifications, or revisions can be made. Otherwise, the site plan is void. Any changes shall require resubmission and reapproval by the planning board. No deviations are allowed. And approval shall be effective for a period of 2 years from the date of this resolution, notwithstanding any extensions granted pursuant to section 5769 more than the code of town of Monroe. Okay. Any other comments on the resolution?
Bonnie, I have a question.
Yes.
Okay, so with the site plan being approved at the end, there's gonna have to be some post-planning escrow set up. And I think it has to be in the resolution for any time that Sean goes out to visit the site for approvals or inspections, for those fees to be paid, so they're not paid by the town. Like we have.
Is that something that has to be added to the resolution, or that's just a matter of what's required?
It's required. I don't remember if they put it in the resolution last time. It just popped into my head because I was paying bills this afternoon.
Okay.
And like the big projects, Smith Farm and any of the big projects, they have this post-planning escrow that anytime an engineer has to go out and look at the site for any type of approval, it's not coming from the town to pay for it. It's still part of their project. It's not their main escrow. They put it in something called a post-planning escrow. So it's after our approval, but it does have to be set up. And I believe a couple of times Mark gave a formula, which I would have to go back and look as to how he figured what the base would be to start. I don't remember if you remember any of that, Sean, from one of the last projects Mark worked on.
Typically, we do a cost estimate based on the proposed improvements. Unfortunately, this project would be a little tough to be able to do that since it's mostly architectural, which Ben would handle, but I'm sure we could come up with something, for a base amount for the escrow.
Ashley, do we need to include a condition?
Yeah, I'm just trying to figure out what exactly you need to do, because it's not a situation where, like some of the bigger projects where you have the public improvement security agreement, and
Right.
that type of stuff. So I think it would almost be really just, I don't know that it would be any different from the escrow that's there now. I'm just looking in your code quickly for any provisions on an inspection type of escrow. If you could just give me a minute.
Yeah, I know that the town came up with a fee schedule.
Yeah, I don't remember it for the post plan, only because you were saying how Sean would go back out with Ben and he's going to continue to send a bill, which I can just keep asking for the regular escrow as long as Joel is aware that until the project is complete, that'll remain open. And if additional funds are required, I just keep asking for it that way. I'm fine either way. I just wasn't sure, and I was doing some post-planning today, so that's why I thought, oh, I better bring that up.
Listen, from my point of view, I don't think that this project will require any significant type of inspections, since there is not much site or almost no site improvements. And like Noreen said, we can leave I don't know how much there is in escrow now, we can put in a couple extra dollars there to make sure that it's maintained. And if there is going to be something, and we'll leave it open until the project gets a CFO.
Okay, I'm fine with that. I just needed to mention it so that we got it straight.
Yeah, I think we need to make sure that it's consistent with what's allowed. And I think you're right that typically the escrow is just left open to handle any kind of inspections. But I myself am looking at the fee schedule. So the escrow fees, just in the fee schedule, it talks about deposit with the town clerk and escrow to cover the cost to be incurred by the town for all consultant services, including but not limited to engineering, planning, and legal, as well as clerical costs incurred in the processing and reviewing of such application. Any applicant who has received site plan approval shall, let me share this. Can you all see that?
Yes.
Okay. Any applicant who's received site plan approval shall, prior to the signing of the plans, deliver to the town a certified or cashier's check payable to the order of the town for the inspection fees in the amount of 5% of the amount of the performance security or 5% of the estimated cost of required improvements, unless estimated otherwise in writing by the town engineer, in order to cover the expense of the town inspecting the various improvements proposed on the site plan. So that's in, I just did a search on town of Monroe fees, and this came up on, it was on the town website.
Okay.
So is this just a matter of course that do we need to say that, that the cost of inspections will be determined by the engineer as a condition, Ashley?
So you have your general condition about requiring all fees to be paid before signing the plan. So I think this would, because this hasn't come up before in any of yours. I mean, it comes up when there's bigger projects and there's public, improvements going on, but nothing like this has come up that's already in the fee schedule. So that's one of the fees. It would be covered just by your general condition that requires all fees and expenses.
Okay, so that's what we have in writing, all fees and expenses. So that's just part of the process.
Right, but that's before the plans are signed. But
That's before the signing of the plan. So
is there something that can be put in for prior to the CO, any additional inspections?
Well, typically in our other municipalities, we do review the cost estimate so that the fee can be set prior to the plans being signed. So could that be included in number 3?
We say any inspection fee shall be determined by the town engineer prior to the signing of the plan.
I'll say maybe at the end of that, just add and the inspection this person being fully paid and I'm sorry, Bonnie, what was that language from the fee schedule? If we could just track that. Was it an inspection escrow or? So maybe just
actually
at the bottom,
fee.
And the inspection escrow.
Actually, it says inspection fees are not held in escrow or otherwise considered as deposits with the town. So it's just the fee in the amount of 5% of the estimated cost of required improvements, unless estimated otherwise by the town engineer. So I think it's just an inspection fee.
Proof in writing that all fees and expenses, engineering, planning, legal and otherwise, comma, including inspection fees. Because that's something that it's paid. Does that make sense? And then Sean, it's something that you would estimate or give the amount of before the actual plans are signed, and then it's not anything that you would, be able to increase after that.
Exactly. Yeah, that's how it's typically done in other.
Okay. Yeah, I think it's covered already, but just if we have that in there, then that makes sense.
Okay. Okay. So, board members, does anybody have any questions or anything in addition to address in this resolution? So then with that,
Bonnie, I did have just the other, if you want to, I could tell you the language I added to the specific conditions, number 2.
okay.
So I changed that, so now it states, prior to the signing the resolution, the design book shall be revised to, and then it's little I, add a revision date to the cover page, And then a little 2, modify the note on the top of page 6 to indicate that the red acrylic facade will be opaque. And then in number 3, modify the lighting note in the center of page 7 to indicate the lighting will be 3000 K as opposed to 3500 K. And I could send this to you, that way you don't have to.
Yeah. Okay, so we're making those 2 additional changes.
And then in number 3, at the end of number 3, I just added, no additional lighting shall be installed without approval of the planning board.
Okay, perfect. Were those the changes? Including the one with regard to the inspection fees?
And then, yes.
Okay. All right, board members. So with that, would someone please make a motion to approve this resolution subject to the changes discussed this evening, which will be finalized by our attorney?
I'd make that motion.
Anthony makes a motion. May I have a second?
I'll second.
Lisa, I think beat you to it, Pat.
Fine.
Noreen, would you please do a roll call vote?
Bonnie Franson,
Aye.
Jason Surinsky,
Aye.
Anthony Vaccaro,
Aye.
John Allegro,
Aye.
Lisa McQuaid,
Aye.
Jeff Manson,
Aye.
Pat Shea. Thank
That
you.
was an aye. So with that, the application is approved.
Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you.
We'll work to address the comments as soon as possible, the conditions, and we'll move forward. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Have a good night.
Take it easy. Yeah.
All right. So, next item on our agenda is Kupo Mafi. And I believe John, I've seen his name there. Okay. All right. So, good evening, John.
Good evening.
Shall we provide an overview? Did you have, you had a comment memo, Sean, correct?
I do, very minor. That the, I'll bring it up. That the bearing on this side of the proposed easement, as well as this side here, be added on the, the easement.
I'm sorry, I'm not getting your audio.
Sorry, can you see the plan?
Yes, I can. Now I hear you a little better.
All right, I just suggested that the bearing of this side of the meets and bounds, as well as right here, just be added to the easement plan for clarity.
Okay.
Okay. Ashley, did you have any comments?
I don't believe so, not other than the one that is a condition in the resolution about just clearing up where the arrow for the rear setback is.
Okay, so we can go through that. Board members, do you have any comments? We have a resolution in front of us, so anything else that you saw on the plans that need to be addressed before we go to the resolution? Okay. So there being no comments, I'm going to share my screen. I believe this is the latest version of the Can you all hear that?
Yeah, I can hear
I
it.
see that, I mean?
Yes, I can hear it.
I'm actually hearing something in someone's background that sounds like vacuum cleaning. That's why I said here. All right. So this is our resolution of conditional approval lot line change for Kupo and Mafi. Nature of application, Rose Ellen Cupo and Vito Maffi have applied for approval of a lot line change allowing the relocation of lot lines between 3 existing parcels owned by the applicants. Property involved, property affected by the resolution is shown on the tax maps, and it identifies the parcel, and each is improved with a single family dwelling. Properties that affected by the resolution is in the SR 15 zoning district in the town of Monroe. Then there's a recitation of the plans and submittals, complete application form and environmental assessment form, and then the lot line change for Round Lake Terrace, last by 7/22/20. Date of application, filed on or about January 16th, 2020. This action as a lot line adjustment is actually a type 2 action under seeker, which means that it's exempt from the requirements of seeker. Public hearing, there's no requirement for a public hearing to be held on a lot line change application. GML 239, application has been referred to the Orange County Planning Department for review and report. Planning Department has reported that this matter is one for local determination, there being no significant intermunicipal or countywide considerations found to exist. And again, Ashley, if we could just add the date of when we received the, does someone have noise in their background? If you could just mute yourself. I don't know if I'm hearing background noises. Findings. Planning board determines that the application proposed relocation or revision of lot lines intended to correct minor boundary problems, does not intend to create a new lot for development purposes, does not result in the creation of any new or additional building lots.
That noise might be the fan in the background, Bonnie. Is your
What
fan
do you
on?
think it is?
Is your fan on? I can see it behind you.
It is, but it's been the whole time.
It's not, yeah, I don't know. It does sound like something's hitting something.
Yeah,
Nobody,
it's definitely not in my house.
nobody has anything.
I don't know what it is. It's odd. Here, let me mute myself for a second. Let's see if it stops. It sounds like someone slicing meat in a deli or vacuum cleaning. All right, so we don't know who it is. Approval will not create a parcel at variance with the bulk requirements of the zone in which the parcel is located. Substantially serve the public. Convenience, safety, and welfare. Planning board resolves pursuant to subdivision B of the town code, section A65.5. Applications classified as a lot line change and to approve it as shown on the plans identified above, and subject to the conditions outlined below. All right, specific conditions.
Just in number 2, Bonnie, I would just suggest that there be, that the water service be plural, 2 easements across 2 lots.
So in 2,
Right,
so it's going to be an S.
right. And then take out the A before water, submit water.
Okay, and Ashley will get all this. You know what, Sean?
Just one easement agreement, even though it's
On 2 different properties?
because it'll be so lot one's getting the service and it's lot one that needs the easement over both of them. I'm just wondering if I think it would maybe be one. I'll make it though so that it could be, either or however we do it.
Okay.
Sean, for the attendees, are they all muted?
Let's see if I can pull them up while you're still sharing.
You know, it seems to be coming from John.
I'm muted.
I'm not talking about you, John Allegro. I'm talking about Clutch. He's muted now, so it should be gone.
So they're all muted now?
looks like everybody's muted except you and I.
Did it go away when I muted it?
It did.
It did.
I don't have anything here. I don't have a fan running. I don't have.
It was just feedback.
Okay. All right, I think we're good. All right, so we were discussing whether there need to be 2 water agreements or 1 agreement. And Sean raised the question because it's on 2 lots, whether there have to be 2 agreements. And that's a question for Ashley.
I think Ashley said she'll just make it, you know, plural or singular.
Yeah, I think it could probably be, you know, accomplished by 1, but I'll reword the resolution to say, you know, Sal Schmidt, a water service easement agreement satisfactory to the planning board attorney and planning board engineer to provide lot 1 with easements over lot 1 and, I mean, easements over 2 and 3. Is that what they're called, or are they kept their lot numbers? What is it?
It's 1, 2, and
lots
3.
2 and 3.
Yeah, so it's lot 1, satisfactory to the planning board attorney and planning board engineer to provide lot 1 with easements over lots 2 and 3 for water service.
Okay. Instrument must be recorded simultaneous with the lot line change map as a condition of approval. A copy of the recorded document proof of such recording submitted to the building department. Prior to the signing of the map, the arrows depicting the 10-foot rear setback for proposed lot 1 shall be deleted and replaced with the double-sided arrow located between the rear lot line and nearest portion of existing dwelling.
Yeah, I've just looked at that. What we have right now is pointing to the closest thing. I think maybe you're not realizing there's a chimney that's attached to the building there. It's abbreviated CHIM, and that's where we have the arrowhead too. And that is a common graphic method.
Okay, yeah, no, that wasn't clear. So I was thinking how you have, like up in the proposed water service easement, that detail, you have the arrow with the double-sided arrow.
Okay, hang on.
Let me see if I can bring it.
What would you'd prefer a double-sided arrow with a
Yeah,
leader?
it just, because that's what you've used for all the other ones, and I didn't realize that tiny arrow by the chimney. I think just to be consistent, if you could just make that.
Okay.
Got it?
Yep.
Okay. Okay, so prior to signing the map, suitable monuments shall be placed at block corners and locations thereof shown on the map. So that's in the event, you know, the lot lines are changing, that we ensure that the monuments are in the places where, you know, reflects the new property lines and properties.
Where would you like them?
You know, I think we could defer to the town engineer, the planning board engineer. So we could say perhaps in the locations recommended by the planning board engineer.
Yeah,
Is that all right?
I'll just put at the end, prior to the signing of the map, suitable monuments shall be placed at block corners and the location thereof shown on a map to the shall be placed at block corners to the satisfaction of the engineer, and then the location shown on the map.
Okay. And then prior to the signing of the map note shall be added stating as follows: this map reflects a lot line change amongst existing lots. No new lot is being created. Map must be filed with the Orange County Real Property Tax Service Agency or the Orange County Clerk. No deed may be recorded until such map is filed. Map shall provide accurate dimensional and area data regarding the resulting parcels. Applicants shall copy the planning board on its letter transmitting that map to the Orange County Real Property Tax Service Agency and to the Orange County Clerk. Filing and shall provide the planning board with proof of filing of said map. Applicant shall copy the planning board on its letter transmitting the deeds to the Orange County Clerk for recording and shall provide the planning board with proof of filing of said deeds. Deeds to be recorded shall restrict use of the parcel consistent with health department regulations, and the new deed description shall be acceptable to the planning board engineer and planning board attorney. That's just to make sure that the deed descriptions reflect what the lot line revisions allow. My only question, deeds to be recorded shall restrict use of the parcel consistent with the health department regulations. I mean, right now they're single family detached dwellings, so is it just the health department or in accordance with the zoning, or we don't really need to say that?
Yeah, I don't think it's necessary to say that it's in the zoning. And that line honestly was carried over from the forms you've always used, so.
Okay. Yeah, I'm not sure about deeds to be recorded shall restrict use of the parcel consistent with health department regulations. I don't know if that's needed for a lot line change. Do you think it's needed, Ashley? I mean, it may have been, I don't know if it was an other lot line adjustment.
Yeah, it's been used in your standard lot line change form.
Okay.
So.
All right, I guess we can leave it in. I'm not sure.
I'm not sure what it actually ends up meaning. If I were to obtain the deed on this parcel and it says that exact phrasing, what regulation, when the regulation's in effect, and what does this encompass?
Yeah. I'm not
And
aware.
my thing is that it's saying shall restrict use of the parcel. I mean, ultimately, yes, you have to meet the health department standards, but also the use itself is governed by the zoning regulations of the town. So I think the question is, what was the intent in our older resolutions? You know, this might have been intended to address something specific to a particular lot line adjustment or something that had happened, and they, you know, the former boards felt the need to put this in there, but it is curious why it is in there.
I'm just thinking, you know, to avoid those situations where lots have been approved and you can't fit septic systems on them, well separations, and then you have to go through extraordinary measures to accept them. So maybe that's why that was added, to protect against that.
I mean, if anything, maybe I would say the deeds to be recorded shall only allow use of the parcel consistent with health department regulations. I think the word restrict is where I have a question.
Yeah, that could.
I don't think I've ever seen having to put in a deed that you're going to subject it to health department regulations or other agencies. The point of a deed is for the purpose of transferring land. If you're looking for some form of restrictive covenant in this, you need to be able to come up with what the conditions are, what the real restrictions are.
Yeah. Yeah, because it does say the deeds to be recorded. So it's indicating that the deed itself is going to have some kind of language.
I mean, the way I would normally go about doing this project in terms of the deeds is I would end up writing new deeds for all three of the parcels. Those deeds would also include, but lot one would indicate that it also has rights to, and describe the other easements that it has rights to, including the proposed water easements. Then it would have the one for lot two, would have the boundary and everything for lot two, and it would say subject to, and then describing the various easements, such as the water easement that it's subject to, together with whatever benefits it has from the other easements and things on it. Same thing with lot three. I'm really not sure where we're going with putting health department regulations in on this. In some ways, it seems a little redundant with what you're coming up with also for the with the document you're looking for the easement for the water. I would include that right in the descriptions and the deed that we're preparing for each one of these lots.
So as far as that statement about the health department, again, as I said, that was had been carried on, and you could take that out. And if I find that something, you know, needs to be said regarding any health department regulations, that'll just be part of my review of the deeds, and I'll just require it at that point.
Okay, if you can come up with a reason or logic, we'll be happy to look at it.
Yeah, as I just said, that it was carried over from a prior form, so thank you for pointing that out, and we will take that out, and if anything is required, then it'll just be part of the normal deed review.
So we'll just change it to say that the deeds, you know, the new deed description shall be acceptable to the planning board engineer and the planning board attorney. I definitely want that done because we obviously want to make sure the meets and bounds match whatever's shown on the lot line. And Ashley, if there's easements, you know, we want to make sure that something isn't being added that we weren't aware of. So we clearly need the review. Okay, so we'll adjust that condition, general conditions, submitting all necessary copies of the plan to be signed, including Marlar's, Town of Monroe Building Department. Okay, approval is further conditioned upon all other approvals. And again, we read that in the prior approval. Those are standard as far as some of the agencies. Condition upon the applicant delivering prior to signing of the plat proof in writing that all fees and expenses owed to the town for all land use applications with regard to this project or site have been fully paid. In this instance, I don't envision there's inspections with a lot line adjustment. I don't know if we need to include that language or if this is going to be general, if this is a general condition that's going to be carried over to all our resolutions, if we should update it consistent with the Yoel one. And if there aren't fees, then there aren't fees, but at least it's in there.
Yeah, I think that makes sense.
Okay, so we'll just make it consistent with Yoel because in that inspection section that we read that came from the fee schedule, it said that it can be adjusted by the town engineer. So, you know, if there's no fees, there's no fees.
Right.
Fully completed entity disclosure statement. That's already, again, a standard condition we've discussed prior. Conditional approval. And, you know, any option to extend it is set forth. Okay, so I think that's the entire resolution. Does anybody have any comments on that resolution? Anything they want to add, or we're good? Okay. All right, so with that, would someone make a motion to approve the resolution of conditional approval for the lot line change for Kupal and Mafi subject to the revisions we discussed?
I'll make that motion.
Okay, Jeff makes the motion. May I have a second?
I'll second it.
I think it was Jason.
Yep.
All right, could you please do a roll call vote? Noreen?
Sorry, I had to get unmuted. Bonnie Franston,
Aye.
Jason Sorinsky,
Aye.
Anthony Vaccaro,
Aye.
John Allegro,
Aye.
Lisa Quaid,
Aye.
Jeff Manson,
Aye.
and Pat Shea.
Aye.
All right, with that, the resolution is approved and we'll see the submission for final review so I can sign the map.
Okay, thank you.
All right, thanks, John.
Yeah.
Good evening, Rosellen. All right.
Thank you.
You're welcome. All right, so I am going to stop sharing. All right. I believe the next item on the agenda are minutes. Yes, so we have a set of minutes. Hopefully we have a quorum to be able to approve them. Ashley, if you would like to leave us, you don't have to stick around for the minutes. And again, unfortunately, Sean does.
Good night, all. And I'll send
Thank
you
you,
the final
Ashley.
resolutions.
Thank you for everything.
Right.
All right, so let's see here. To find them. Okay, so the first one is January 21st. All right, let me share my screen. All right, can everyone see that? All right, so present were Anthony, Lisa, myself, and John. Did everybody have a chance to go over these comments?
Yes.
Yes? Okay. So then I will make a motion that we approve the January 21st, 2020 minutes. May I have a second?
Second.
And give it to John.
Okay. Okay, so it's, I made the motion, John seconds, and I'll actually do the roll call. I say aye. Anthony,
Aye.
Lisa,
Aye.
and John.
Aye.
All right, with that, we have approved minutes for January 21st.
Noreen, I have a general question about the minutes, because I looked on the town site to read them. Is there a way to indicate that they've been approved or not, or they're pending approval? I may have missed that.
When they get it, oops, am I unmuted? I didn't even look. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Approved, they get released, and I think that's when they pop up.
Because they were on the town's website for planning board documents.
They don't go up on until they've been approved.
That's what I'm saying. It was on there, and
The January 21st was,
I believe so. You can check it again, or I'll check it.
no, it's okay, I'll double check. I didn't think they went up until after we approved. Or maybe when they sit in that box for long enough, I don't know.
Well, it was convenient to see it up there so that I could read it, and I was thinking maybe it's worth if, we put in parentheses pending approval.
Well, sometimes they go up as draft. I have to see what Board Docs is doing. I will look.
Okay, thanks.
Thank you.
Actually, I believe that minutes are supposed to be filed within 5 days of the meeting. What is it? How many? Noreen?
Sorry, I swallowed my cough drop. It's 2 to 3 weeks I'm supposed to have them prepared, so I am behind schedule.
Yeah, no, I think by law, there's a time frame. I don't think it's 2 to 3 weeks. It's very specific when they're supposed to be filed with the town clerk.
Mary Ellen told me 2 to 3 weeks yesterday, or last Friday.
Yeah, I can send you the information. It's, I think in the open meetings law, there's a publication by New York State Department of State.
Okay.
And what we're actually doing is we are approving minutes, but in fact, the official minutes are what gets filed right after the meeting. And I think to some extent, the board docs and the clips are what is in fact, what's getting filed. And to some extent official with the town clerk. But we like to still review and approve minutes as kind of our official, indication of the results and the outcomes of the meetings.
Okay.
But I'll send that to everyone. So this is February 13th, 2020. Present Anthony, Lisa, Jason, and Jeff. Does anybody need me to scroll through the minutes? Or are you all good to approve?
I'm ready.
I'm good.
I'm good.
Okay. And then Noreen, just on that prior adoption of the minutes, just indicate that whomever was, not present, recused themselves from the vote.
Yeah, I put them abstain.
Abstain, okay. Sorry, abstain, not recuse. All right. So do one of you want to make a motion to approve the minutes?
I'll make a motion to approve the minutes.
I'll second it.
Was that Jason?
Yes.
That was Lisa and Jason. Jason is incognito this evening.
Yeah, I was gonna say he's gone.
The video slows down everything else in the house, and so I started off on video, and I got a text saying, "Turn off the video. Hulu's being slow."
All right.
So that's how I've been conducting business for the last, good Lord knows how long.
So, all right. So I'll do a quick roll call. Anthony,
Aye.
Lisa,
Aye.
Jason,
Aye.
Jeff.
Aye.
All right. So those minutes are adopted. And then the next one is March 30th.
Okay, March 30th, I'm redoing. It was the 2.5 hour meeting with the CCR. And
Okay.
I didn't understand a lot of it. So when I was rereading them, it didn't make a lot of sense. So I was like, it doesn't make any sense in the way that I had it. So I'm trying to get it more in order by what it did. Plus, Ashley had sent me a recording from her staff. So I'm combining it to make sure I didn't skip anything. So that's the 30th and April 9th were both CCR. So they should be done hopefully by Friday.
Okay.
April 24th.
And then I would just suggest, especially Jeff, I had to recuse myself. So Jeff,
right,
who was involved, you might want to send him in advance before it goes out to the entire board.
Well, that's what I figured. I was going to send them to him and say, check these out, because it was back and forth over different things. So that one was a little more confusing. I finished 2 other ones today, but it was very late, so I didn't get them out to you. And then I have 2 more to finish probably tomorrow. And so that would get me through May and June. Should be done hopefully by the end of the week also.
Okay. All right.
Hey, I'm sorry to go back because I missed my own notes on the February 13th, and I had a couple of questions. I don't know if we get backsies on this stuff, but would you entertain it?
Fine, I don't know.
Well,
say that again, Anthony.
I have 2 questions, and I want to go back to the one that we just approved. One is a question just for clarification. And
Was it the February?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, hold on.
I saw that we had 81 Raywood Drive as the project name, and then on my files I have just Raywood Drive, and I'm just wondering, are these being indexed consistently in terms of names?
All right, originally they came in as 81 Raywood Drive, and he made up that number 81. So 81 technically doesn't exist, so the project's been changed to Raywood Drive. So I'll go back to the beginning ones where Raywood, when they first came in, and change the project to just Raywood Drive.
All right, well, I hope
Hey,
that we could do
they
that.
also have, I'm sorry, Anthony, I was just gonna add that they all have a particular project number, and the SBL also tracks it.
Yeah.
So on the Raywood, the 0176-2019 we could use as an index for tracking.
Yes.
And then the other thing, and maybe I am too late on this, but there was a whole section of verbiage in the beginning of the description, and it wasn't clear to me who was saying that. I think it was the applicant representative, but it could have been, it wasn't clear to me.
In 81 Raywood?
Yeah, and I'm wondering if we need to put a name in front of that so we know who's going through this project description. I assumed it was the applicant's representative.
Yes, he did it in the beginning.
All right, well, I guess we can let it go. I missed that when we were doing the review.
I think we can do a minor adjustment,
Yeah. I'll fix it.
if that's okay with everybody who voted.
That's fine with me.
Okay, all right. So with that, last item on the agenda, would you all like to adjourn? Would someone like to make a motion?
No.
I'll
I
make a
knew that
motion,
was
we
coming.
adjourn tonight's meeting.
May I have a second?
I'll second.
All in favor? Raise your hand.
Aye.
Aye.
Aye,
All
raising my
right.
hand.
All right. Thank you, everyone. Thank you, Sean, for staying on as usual. And we will see you next month.
Hey, Sean, I have a question for you. Are the Zoom invites all the same, or every time you send out a new one, it's a new call-in number?
I thought it was a new call-in number. But you said you used the one from Thursday and you were able to get on this meeting?
Yeah.
Oh, really? Yeah, I don't know. I thought they were all, specific to the actual meeting, so.
That's interesting.
Yeah.
All right, guys.
Okay.
See you later.
Have a
Good
good
night.
night. See
Good
ya.
night. Bye.